last night I went to see Bob Dylan at the Brighton Centre. He started with his back to the audience, so I thought if it's good enough for Bob, it's good enough for me. Anyway, I'm not going to do the whole video facing the wrong direction, like he didn't do the whole gig facing the wrong direction. But I was really looking forward to this one. Now, this is the first gig I've been to where there was a no phone policy. So you had to queue up and you had to give your phone in, and you got given, it was kind of like a neoprene bag with one of those sort of clips on, a bit like those security tags you get in shops that they have to put a special thing on to release. So you can't touch your phone as soon as you get in, so you have to remember to take any cards or anything, wallet things out of it, and they give you a little slip. I thought, what they give me a slip for is so you know what your seat number is, because you never remember because it's all on your phone. So I got there quite early. It was doors at 6. I did read on the website that he wasn't going to be on stage till 8, but I thought, well, I don't want to be, you know, late getting there and there's loads of security checks and maybe there might even be a support act. There wasn't. So I went into the bar at the back of the Brighton Centre, or the opposite side from the stage, so the south of the Brighton Centre. It kind of overlooks the sea, although it was dark, but you can see all the lights of the pier and stuff. It's quite nice. And I stood there on a table, and then some guy came over and said, oh, do you mind if I put my drink on the table? And I said, no, go ahead. And I started chatting to him, and he said it was the 7th time that he'd seen Bob Dylan, and he said he'll go on at 8 o'clock, he'll play till about 9:45, he won't speak to the audience, he won't do an encore, and that'll be it. And spoiler alert, he was right. So as I left the bar, something very exciting happened. I walked past Nick Cave. I don't think he lives in Brighton anymore, but he was famously a Brighton resident. In fact, he managed to crash and destroy one of the speed cameras on the road along the beach, which was very good of him. Anyway, I don't think he lives in Brighton anymore, but he was in Brighton last night watching Bob Dylan. So as the guy said, he came on almost exactly at 8 o'clock. So Bob did away with all those usual things that you'd expect from an evening of great entertainment and music. I mean, he didn't speak to the audience. I mean, to start with, he didn't even face the audience. He read the words from a folder. There was no light show. He hardly played any of his hits. There was no encore, but nothing. It really wasn't a great night of music and entertainment. I hate to say this, I'm going to get in real trouble for this, aren't I? Now, I love Bob Dylan. This was a bucket list gig for me. I mean, I've seen lots of my favourite artists that are all getting older and won't be playing for much longer. I mean, I saw Paul McCartney end of last year. I saw Glenn Campbell before he died. I've seen James Taylor. I mean, all these guys are getting older, and I really want to see Bob Dylan, and I finally did. So I'm probably going to get slated for this opinion. And while I was editing the video, I thought I need to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to put a little clip of me playing a Bob Dylan song. Now, it's obviously the Hendrix version that I'm playing here, so I'm going to put it on the line there, and then just a short musical interlude, then back onto the rest of the review. Now, I'm expecting to get a hard time over this because this is sacrilege, isn't it? Criticising a legend, but I'm going to be the innocent child who's pointing out that the emperor is in the nude, I think. Now, in my opinion, by any measure of what makes a great gig, this really didn't tick any of the boxes for me. And to be honest, I would have left after 2 songs, but I didn't want to. I wanted to sit right to the end, but the rest of it was all exactly the same. So he walked on. He's behind a piano for a kick-off, but he didn't play the piano to start with. As I say, he sat down with his back to the audience and he picks up a guitar. I don't know what it was. It could have been a Strat or a Telecaster. I've looked up some photos off this tour, or some videos, because you're not allowed your camera, so there aren't many, but I had a look on YouTube to see if there was any footage of what guitar he was using. It could be a Strat, it could be a Telecaster, and I think he has it just plonked on top of a Fender Bassman, it looks like. So he sits with his back to the audience, he picks up this guitar, and he was playing, and well, somebody's done an audio recording. I'm going to play you a little bit at the beginning of this audio recording that someone's done, and I have to say that this recording, it's not very good, but it's better than what he played last night. So here we go, have a listen to this. I missing something? I mean, the rest of the band, the band, it was a sort of clunky rhythm section. He played loads of wrong notes. He was all out of time. There were no phrases. One of the other guitarists wasn't much better, to be honest. The guy on the right was quite good. The guy on the left wasn't much better than Bob himself on the guitar. He played a bit of acoustic at one point. He was best on the acoustic, but there was the weirdest bass sound to begin with. He looked like he had a bass 6 or something like that, but it sounded like it was elastic bands or something. And the drum sound was a bit weird. I don't think that was his fault. There was a weird echo. I don't know if it's bouncing off the back wall, but the snare drum sounded a bit like hitting a big plastic bucket. So I always thought he got booed at the Newport Jazz Festival for playing an electric guitar because it was kind of breaking from the folk tradition. But now I've heard him play the electric guitar, maybe they were booing for another reason. So when he finally did turn around and start playing the piano, this is where he turns around to play. He didn't ever sing and play the guitar at the same time, so he turns around to play the piano. And his piano playing isn't a great deal better than his guitar playing. I mean, it really, at times, it did sound like he was just going like that. And if you're in the UK, you may get this reference, but there was a comedian sort of in the 70s and 80s called Les Dawson who used to do this thing on piano. Look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. Les Dawson piano. And he sort of intentionally played the odd wrong note here and there, which has its similarities with Bob, but the difference with Les was he was playing really well, and by throwing the odd note in, it made it very funny, but I don't think I could really accuse Bob of playing really well. And then he started singing. Now, I may be in the minority here, but I really like Bob Dylan's voice, and his lyrics are, those first few albums, I mean, it's just, for me, they're the greatest lyrics ever written. How did he come up with that? I mean, it's amazing. But last night, couldn't understand a word he said. Literally, I mean, I didn't know most of the songs, but even the ones I did, I still couldn't understand what he said, even when I knew what the words were. He also does this weird thing where he's kind of playing the piano like this, and he sort of pushes the microphone away, and then when he goes to sing, he kind of stops playing with his left hand and pulls the microphone, and then pushes it away again, and then just starts playing the piano again like that. So at the end of the first song, he's played the piano. He stands up, and I think, oh, perhaps he's going to come around the front and play a bit of guitar. No, he stood up, and he's got this big folder. It just looks like a sort of, folder a student has, with the words in that are propped on his piano. So then he turns over to the next song. I mean, I've never seen anybody using a folder with paper on it. I mean, most people would have an auto cue so you can't see they're reading the lyrics, but no, folder on the piano. And then a little way into the gig, I mean, it felt like about probably 7.5 hours into the gig is what it felt like, he finally decided to play the harmonica. And bizarrely, I always thought that on those sort of early records, the harmonica, he was a bit kind of, it just sounded like he sort of had it wedged in his mouth and he was just sucking and blowing and not really playing anything in particular. I guess he had it on one of those thingy bobs. But it was a great sound, it suited what he did. But weirdly, his harmonica playing is much better than it was on those old records. He was kind of playing some sort of tunes and things like that. But one thing that really I did enjoy, he did one of the songs, I think he sung a verse, then he got his harmonica out and he played a little interlude. Then he put the harmonica down, sung another verse, and somehow within that verse he managed to muddle up his harmonicas because he picked up the wrong one and started playing, and it was in completely the wrong key, so he was kind of like, oh, he just put it back down and then picked up the other one and carried on again. So not quite sure how the harmonicas got muddled up within about 4 lines. And as I say, I mentioned the band. I mean, the guitarist on the right was pretty good. I think the drummer was all right, but they're just kind of following him and hanging on his every move. And there weren't really any. There were a couple of endings and a couple of stops, but a lot of the songs just seemed to peter out. It was like running out of gas rather than intentionally putting on the brake and turning the engine off. Now, as I say, he didn't play any of his hits, really. He played 2 songs that I recognised. From what the guy told me beforehand, that most of the stuff he plays is off his latest album, which I stupidly didn't listen to. I'm not sure whether I would have recognised it, but he played Desolation Row, and I only recognised that one because I recognised the line, or the 2 words, Passport Brown, because it sounded absolutely nothing like the song. And then he did It's All Over Baby Blue, which again, I only recognised the Baby Blue. That was the only bit I really didn't recognise the rest of it at all. And there was no change in lighting for the entire gig. He came on and there were a few sort of lights propped around the stage. There was this big sort of lamp thing at the back which I don't think ever came on. So the stage was just lit completely static for the whole gig. Nothing, no spotlights, nothing. It was just static for the entire gig. Now over the years, because I don't live that far from it, I've seen quite a lot of gigs at the Brighton Centre. In fact, the first kind of big gig I ever went to was in about 1989. I went and saw Europe, who were massive at the time because Final Countdown hadn't been out long. And it's funny, I meet people around my age who are into music, and that was the first gig that they went to. It was a kind of first biggish band that we were allowed, just about old enough to go to, that appeared at the Brighton Centre. But more recently I saw James Taylor there, and I mean, it couldn't be more different. James Taylor, he plays all his hits. He's got arguably the best band in the world, certainly one of the best bands. I mean, he's got Steve Gadd, Mike Landau. I mean, the band is just ridiculous. So the musicianship and the quality of the musicianship and the quality of the playing, the quality of the singing. James Taylor's singing, you can hear every single word. His guitar playing is perfect. And he engages with the audience. He's funny, he talks to the audience. It was completely opposite experience to last night. Also, one of the last gigs I saw there was Joe Bonamassa. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't really enjoy that gig. I've done a review on both of those gigs I just spoke about. Joe Bonamassa for a different reason. I mean, one thing you can't accuse Bob Dylan of is not having any sort of soul or being genuine and being the real article. Joe Bonamassa, it was a bit soulless. The great musicianship, which was enough to sort of keep me interested. I didn't enjoy that for a different reason, but it was a good show. He did put on a good show. I can't complain about that. He spoke to the audience once. He was a bit similar. But anyway, let's not talk about Joe Bonamassa. But one of the other gigs I did get dragged along to quite a few years ago was Gary Barlow, who is, if you don't know, the lead singer and songwriter from Take That, who my wife is a massive fan of, and she dragged me along to see it. Now, I always consider him to be a bit of a sort of transcendent holiday camp singer. He's kind of doing that thing that you see singers doing at holiday camps, but on a much, much higher level. And I would say he had a great band. In fact, if you've watched my videos before, you'll know that I've worked with the bass player. He had a great band. He was great with the audience. He played songs that everyone knew. He sung really well. You could hear every word. I mean, it wasn't my cup of tea, but it was a brilliant show and a great night's entertainment. Now, I know I'm probably going to make myself very unpopular with this video because everyone there seemed to enjoy it, but it's almost like you've got to enjoy it because he's a legend. You can't take it on face value. If that was an unknown artist doing that last night, people would have walked out in disgust because it didn't look rehearsed. It wasn't up to muster, I have to say. I couldn't wait for it to finish. Not helped by this guy sat next to me who had the most horrendous breath, and he kept leaning forward like this, completely obscuring my view. Absolutely no sort of self-awareness or spatial awareness. Not that I was bothered because it wasn't really anything to look at. So I'm glad I went. I've ticked Bob off my bucket list. I'm not going to go again. I mean, and I'm not doing this, I'm not moaning because he's a legend and you're supposed... I mean, I went to see Paul McCartney last year. Go and look for my review on that. That was one of the best things that I've ever seen. I mean, he's the same age roughly as Bob, and he played for 3 hours. He played all his hits. He's funny. The band sound great. The most amazing show you could ever imagine. I mean, it's just a completely different experience. So I never do this at the end of a review. I mean, nearly always I'll get something out of it. Even the Joe Bonamassa gig, I enjoyed it for what it was. I wouldn't go to that one again, but I'd say I'd recommend to go once and see it. Unless you want to tick Bob Dylan off your bucket list, I wouldn't bother. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I bring out new videos 7 PM UK time every Friday. I'm going to leave you with a little clip of me playing the guitar. I'm playing a Bob Dylan song appropriately, but this is the Hendrix version. It's a bit of All Along the Watchtower, and I hope to see you next week.